Hello, everybody. This is a special edition of Barnstorming PA. Also, a little bit the Hub for Progress, piggybacking on that platform. I'm Jordi Comis, facilitator for the Hub for Progress and a co-producer for Barnstorming PA. This came together very quickly because Dwayne emailed me this morning and said, "Hey, this dropped. Maybe we should talk about it." And I said, "Sure." So we're going to go around and say hi real quick. We have some returning faces, some new faces, and Dwayne, I'll throw it to you, and if you could just throw it to somebody else after that.
Sure, wonderful. Well, let's start off with some incredible healthcare workers. Let's see, Hilary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Hilary Rothrock. I'm a home care worker in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm also a member political organizer with SEIU Healthcare Pennsylvania. We are the largest healthcare union in Pennsylvania state. Lynn, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Lynn, and I am a home care worker in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'm also a member political organizer for SEIU Healthcare Pennsylvania. And Erica, how about you?
Hi, my name is Erica Payne. I am also a healthcare worker, home care giver. I live in Pittsburgh, PA, and I'm an e-board member and a political organizer as well.
And for the first time with us, Julie. Oops, it looks like we lost Julie. She'll be back, I'm sure.
Okay.
Would you like to introduce yourself? Jay, would you like to introduce yourself?
Jay Grandis. I'm a facilitator at the Hub for Progress.
And we have an incredible guest with us too, Jeff.
Hey, be here. I'm Jeff Garris. I am the Federal Campaigns and Program Director at the Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center. We are the state affiliate of the on Budget and Policy Priorities. At PBPC, one of my responsibilities is coordinating our campaign that we call the 99% Pennsylvania, focused on federal advocacy, trying to get our federal government to do things in the interest of the overwhelming majority of us, not just the top 1%. That's great to be here.
Great, yeah. Jeff. Glad you're here. So, my name is Dwayne Hyster. I didn't really introduce myself. I'm with SEIU Healthcare as well, and I'm also a member of the Hub for Progress and Action Together, several progressive groups. And so, what has happened this afternoon? And you may have seen the president speaking about this earlier today. Is we got some kind of framework for an agreement about the Build Back Better portion of the legislation that's been really for the last few months has been worked on along with the infrastructure bill. And there's kind of like 4 large buckets. And Jordi, I'm just going to name those. We'll see where we can start talking about this. But there's kind of 4 big areas. The first is investments in children and caregiving, the like of such we have not seen since the 1960s, which is pretty incredible. And then there's a huge investment which is being made in clean energy and combating climate change. So that would be the second bucket. The third kind of captures some things around Medicare and the Affordable Care Act, which is affordable care for millions of hardworking Americans. And the fourth part is just bringing down costs and reducing the inflation pressures that we're feeling, and basically pathways for us to strengthen the middle class. Those are kind of the 4 buckets that I see where these things are. Jordi, what you got?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think one thing that I want to give a shout out to is, first of all, Jeff, sometimes I feel like broadly on the left, we sort of collectively wring our hands. We're like, we're not good at framing. I think 99% was like genius framing, right? And I really love that you guys are still using it. In my mind, it emerged around Occupy and the Great Recession, but I just want to give a thumbs up to that.
Yes, it did.
And I think, it's relevant because I think one of the lines I saw in the framework was people who make, one of the taxes is for people who make more than $400,000 a year, right? So like for people who are like, oh, they're going to raise taxes, it's like, do you make more than $400,000 a year? I mean, not even total wealth. That's your income. If you don't, then you're not going to be paying more, right? So I think that's a real top line headline. The other one is infrastructure, right? And I actually love the word infrastructure. I know that like there's been some kind of weird like philosophical linguistic debates going on at the national level, like what is infrastructure? But it's pretty straightforward. It's resources that make everything else more productive, and it can be physical or it can be human. There is a physical infrastructure bill, which I think is 1.2 trillion that already passed, something like that. And then this is the human infrastructure bill, and the 4 buckets you talked about, Dwayne, are about that. We've all grown up or lived through this economy that's basically started with Reagan, and it's basically about how much can we exploit out of people in the United States, and how much can we exploit people in the United States and in other countries, and how much can we not regulate things, and all of that, it keeps putting more and more pressures on everyday people. The cost of healthcare, the cost of childcare, the cost of taking care of the elderly. We have this big demographic shift where we have more and more people who are elderly who can stay in their homes, which is a great thing. And so this care economy has grown up around that. And of course, we haven't been taking care of the planet. And all of those things need to be addressed, or else we won't have an economy. It's really that simple. One of the lines in the framework that came from the Biden administration is that $100 billion a year right now is what we're paying only in climate-related costs. And so when we look at all of that, I think I'm just trying to sort of set up that the physical infrastructure and the human infrastructure make a lot of sense, right, to put them together. Anybody want to have any quick comments on that and sort of the big picture, and then we'll get into some of the specifics?
Jordi, I think that all sounds right. And I'm really excited because you've really highlighted a big part of this, which is about home health care, and which is something we really need to, to get out there, that people don't realize what exactly is happening there. And so I thought maybe we might start by just kicking it off to one of our healthcare professionals here. Maybe Lynn, would you like to comment on, this is new for everyone. This just popped up, right? In this crazy world, you never know what's happening the next moment. I know we had a chance to chat a little bit earlier, and you've been directly involved with this, right? It's been our Senator Casey, who's really been lifting up some of this. And I wonder if you could comment on that, because I have a feeling you know who he is.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been working since, I think it was May, we started doing press conferences with Senator Casey when he laid out his Better Care, Better Jobs Act, which was, the home and community-based services portion of this this infrastructure, human infrastructure build back better, which we now know that we're around $150 billion, which is amazing. We started out asking for about 400, and I would say that 150 is no small thing. It's going to be changing a lot of people's lives. Working with Senator Casey has been absolutely amazing, and I feel like our advocacy as home care workers has really made him a champion now of healthcare, of especially home care workers. I've not seen, I don't think, any politician that has ever backed a movement the way that he's doing, especially not home care workers. I've never seen a champion for little old me before. A lot of times we get passed over. We think of us as, glorified babysitters or butt wipers. That's the one I like. And we really play a more vital role than people realize in the healthcare structure. I think Hilary said it best. There's it's like a triangle, and we're the basis of the whole healthcare system, right? We're the ones that keep people out of the hospitals and all of that. And so Senator Casey championing that, and our ability to make noise to this level, just it's been really amazing. And me and my consumer, my roommate Brandon, we've both been working on this together with Senator Casey, and we've done so many press conferences. But I would say last week we sort of hit our what do you call it? Is it crescendo? Is that the right word? When you get to the height of things. We were in Scranton last Wednesday, me and Brandon, and we were able to meet with President Biden at that time, and Brandon spoke with him and did an amazing job. I sort of did the, I'm a healthcare worker froze a little bit, and Brandon doesn't miss a beat and jumped right in there and really advocated for for people with disabilities and also for home care workers. He's probably my biggest champion ever. Like, he is a support system like no other. And actually, the POTUS Twitter account tweeted out a conversation that Brandon had with the president, which was awesome. So it's been a wild ride, and now today to have reached and understood $150 billion for us is amazing. It's really cool.
Yeah, when you said Hillary, I thought. Go ahead, Hillary. Go ahead.
You thought Hillary Clinton, Jordi? You were thinking of Hillary Clinton.
I was like, Lynn knows Casey. She probably knows Hillary Clinton.
I mean, she knows Biden now, right? And Senator Casey, and there's a lot of other state representatives and Congress people that are now backing home care. And there's been this whole movement forward of home care workers and caregivers and the people that we take care of that are pushing Congress to do right by us and make that investment that we need. And Lynn mentioned we asked for $400 billion, which sounds like a whole lot of money, and we're getting $150 billion, hopefully. And that's a whole lot of money. My concern would be that it's not enough to get us to where we need to be, but certainly there's going to be some movement and opportunity for us to keep pushing once we've made the initial investments that this Build Back Better plan is going to allow us to do. And Lynn was referencing a conversation we had earlier where we have healthcare and it's like a pyramid, right? And the base of the pyramid is home care. It's keeping people in their homes. It's a much lower cost for taxpayers. It's better outcome for the community. It's healthier for the participant or the resident. And then you have our nursing home care, and then you have hospital care. And what we see is that when we make that investment in stabilizing the industry at the home care level, that the rest of the levels have a solid base on which to perform. So really hopeful that this investment, huge investment, $150 billion, is enough to help all of the states stabilize their healthcare systems, because what we're seeing is a lot of collapse all across the United States. And Pennsylvania is no different.
Hey, Erica, do you want to add something to that?
I am thrilled that we have this money to actually work with, but money alone is not going to actually save us. It's going to take a ton of work. We have to make sure that this investment goes strictly where it needs to go in order to stabilize what we have. We have to be able to recruit and retain workers so that people feel more confident and competent in their jobs and are able to take care of people's very specific and unique needs. We deal with people who have dementia. We deal with people who are quadriplegic. We deal with people who can't talk, people who need feeding tubes. This job is not a babysitter's job. We really actually work to take care and to try to avoid any type of hospitalization or higher level of care. We need real training, and it has to be put towards real training. But more than that, the only way we're ever going to get anywhere is if we up the pay rate to a livable wage that gives us middle class accessibility, because no one's going to stay in a field or profession in which we work as hard as we do when Sheetz and McDonald's are paying better than what we're getting. So I'm thrilled that we actually have the opportunity to get this ball rolling, but we really have to look at the work that really needs to be done once that money is actually allotted to us.
That is such a good point, Erica, and I'm glad you brought that up. With us also today, we have someone, Julie. And Julie, we were talking earlier, and if you could introduce yourself. I know we had a connection issue before, but we're so glad you're back. We had a conversation earlier about, like, what does this really mean with the work that you're doing, right? And you made some comments about what that looks like every day. And so if you could introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit of that conversation.
Hey, my name's Julie. Thanks, guys, for having me back. Tech issues. It's a good thing I'm a home care worker because tech's not my thing. So a little bit about it, for a lot of us, having this added to home care, for us as individuals, for most of my life, I was a single mom. I started out making $5 an hour as a home care worker. At 38 years old, I have finally seen 1040, 1140 an hour. Agencies gave us the ability at something so much greater, but it's not home care. It's taking care of individuals that are in facilities that you have maybe 10, 15 minutes to interact with. Home care gives an individual the ability to genuinely be able to have their last wishes fulfilled. And for me, that is worth way more than any monetary value. What we're asking is something so small compared to what this will actually give, not just us as home care workers, but our own clients, the ability to improve their quality of life on and with.
Julie, welcome. You know, the audio is great. Could you maybe, I say this and I try and bring as much humility as I can to this, like 1040, that just doesn't seem like, I don't know how you live. I don't understand how you can survive.
Well, when I initially learned about the whole 1040 an hour wage, I didn't realize that it was because I was subcontracted. Learning about being subcontracted, you then learn that as a subcontracted individual, there are no taxes being taken out of that 1040 an hour. So if you take your taxes out, now you're making $7.25 an hour as a subcontracted home care worker. And that is something that's being pulled over our eyes right now. And that for years we have not had the acknowledgement of, or we've just been blind to it. We didn't catch it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's so obvious. I mean, you have workers in this field that they get no vacation time, they get no training, they use YouTube in order to learn how to do what they're doing. It is so severely underfunded, and so this can be a huge change. But you know what? We've been hearing just about one section of this Build Back Better, and this thing is huge. It's monstrous. And Jeff, you're my go-to for this kind of thing. Like, can you really spell out what this is going to mean to all of our fans? All of us are going to need healthcare at some point or another, and so this portion of it is very important. But there's other parts of it, including other healthcare parts. Jeff, can you give us maybe a rundown of what we're looking at? Sure. What just came out by the president today?
Sure, I'd be glad to do that. Thanks so much for having me. This is a great opportunity. I am a big fan of the podcast and really honored to be here with people who have really made helping and serving others a major part of their lives. And I salute all of you as important workers we have on the front lines. So let's talk about this today. Today is a really important day. We finally have what appears to be a final package coming together around the Build Back Better agenda after weeks and weeks and really months of negotiations, standoff. And it's hard when you're in that situation because for weeks and weeks we hear about, Senator Manchin wants this taken out and Senator Sinema wants that taken out. And, they're debating shortening this or reducing, it gets very frustrating. But, this is all part of the process of negotiating. And, so we're now really excited because now we know here's what we're looking at. And this is an unprecedented and transformative plan to better the lives of all Americans, Black, brown, and white, those with low, moderate, even people with high incomes, the youngest children, and our oldest seniors. It will help families care for children while making quality pre-K available for all preschoolers. It will create hundreds of thousands of good jobs, many in unionized trades and clean manufacturing, while drastically cutting greenhouse gases and reducing energy costs for millions. And it's going to make college more affordable, boosting the future prospects of our young people and really our economy as a whole. One of the things that's really great about it is it will be paid for by new taxes on the largest most profitable corporations and the wealthiest Americans while cutting taxes for working people. All this while also reducing the deficit. You know, the legislative process in America is always slow, especially when we try to tackle really big systemic problems. And these are problems that have been developing for decades now. Really what we've seen now for 40 years, the Reagan era. And I think we're turning a corner, and we're leaving the Reagan era. We're going forward into something new and something I think is going to be much more just. But you know, this legislative package doesn't include every proposal that can contribute to expanding opportunity and prosperity for the middle class. But you know, the real measure of political achievement is how far we have come, not how much farther we want to go. And believe me, there are a lot of us who want to go farther, and we'll be able to do that much more easily now because we're going to be in a much better place to do this as we continue to move forward and as we continue to institute the kind of changes that we need to see. By those standards, enacting President Biden's Build Back Better plan and the bipartisan infrastructure package is going to be one of the most substantial achievements on behalf of the American people in many decades. Now, you asked about some of the specifics. I'm going to run through just a few of these quickly. The plan will provide universal and free preschool for all 3- and 4-year-olds in this country, the largest expansion of universal and free education in more than a century. It's going to reduce greenhouse gas pollution by well over 1 gigaton by 2023, while reducing consumer energy costs and creating thousands of high-quality jobs. It's going to reduce the cost of childcare for American families of 4 earning less than $300,000 a year. It's going to deliver affordable, high-quality care for older Americans and people with disabilities in their homes, as we've just been hearing about, while also supporting the workers who provide this vital care. It's going to provide more than 35 million households with up to $3,600 in tax cuts per child by extending the American Rescue Plan's expanded child tax credit, benefiting 90% of American children. And this is going to continue to cut childhood poverty in half, just as we've already seen starting to happen with the American Rescue Plan's child tax credit. It's going to extend health care to 4 million Americans who have not yet benefited from the expansion of Medicaid. It's going to reduce health care costs for more than 9 million who purchase their health insurance on the healthcare marketplaces, and it's going to help older Americans access affordable hearing care by expanding Medicare. And last thing I'm going to note here in terms of the investments is it's going to make a huge new investment in affordable housing that will lead to the construction, rehabilitation, and improvement of more than 1 million affordable homes while reducing housing prices for renters and homeowners. You know, and the thing is, we know before, the plan is going to be paid for entirely by the richest Americans and the largest and most profitable corporations, while taxes are cut for families with the lowest incomes. And they're going to do this with a 15% minimum tax on the reported profits of large corporations, a separate 15% minimum tax on profits earned by U.S. companies abroad, and tax penalties for companies that have their headquarters in global tax havens. It's also going to be paid for by an additional 5% tax on incomes exceeding $10 million per year, and another 3%.
Oh, man, that's really going to hit me hard.
And another 3%. Yeah, I know. It's going to be very upsetting for a lot of listeners.
Where am I going to put my yacht?
You know, and I was going to say, you mentioned earlier at the beginning, you referenced the fact that the president had promised that no new taxes would be put, or no tax increases would be put on people earning less than $400,000 a year. Actually, there's a lot of people earning more than $400,000 a year who are not going to be paying more in taxes, because this additional 5% income tax is for people earning more than $10 million per year. And I'm sorry, you can probably hear my dog barking in the background. I'm really irritated with this dog. If anyone would like to adopt a dog who might otherwise.
Listen, we meet people where they are, Jeff. We meet people where they are.
Yeah,
we'll talk offline about that. Maybe there's some dog training. For the other guests, just so you know, if you come back on, I did mute people trying to isolate the dog. Jeff, I'm so blown away. Do you have that memorized, all of those facts and figures?
Well, I don't want to give away all the secrets we use
Okay.
at a public policy think tank, but if
Yeah,
I
but
don't have them, let's put it this way: if I don't have them memorized by now, probably in another 48 hours I will,
well,
because
just
uh,
because it
this
changes
is about the
sometimes.
third or fourth time I've talked about it today.
Right, right, right. It changes sometimes. I want to just pause for a moment on sort of big picture, and then maybe let's bring Jay in and talk about whatever he wants. But like, for people don't know, I used to teach management as a university professor for a long time, and I'm a little rusty on some of that. But like, I was looking at some of the tax side of this because this is something I know Dwayne and I've talked about. There's this scarcity mentality in America. Yeah, and Dwayne's even putting this in the chat here, that there's a fairness question about paying your fair share. And stock buybacks, I'm going to go a little bit, putting my professor hat on, is a really pernicious, awful thing because it. Well, let me take half a step back. Often we hear we can't afford this. We can completely afford this. The idea that we can't afford this is a rhetorical narrative tool of the economic elite ruling class that doesn't want to have to deal with the uncomfortable fact that the economy we've built is screwing people over. And stock buybacks is a great example of that, because the usual narrative is, well, if we tax companies, then they won't have enough money to invest in jobs. And I'm not a doctrinaire Marxist, right? I actually like the idea of companies expanding what they do and being productive. But a stock buyback means that if I'm the CEO of, Acme Inc., right, I get paid based on how much my stock price is worth. And when it's true that right now the corporations in the United States have more cash just sitting in banks than they ever have, and only 43% of the S&P 500 actually put money into R&D. Think about that. Less than half of those companies are actually investing in R&D, which would be the basis of expanding what they do. What do they do with all this cash? They look at the stock market and they say, we'll buy back a lot of those stocks. And we all understand basic economics. If there's fewer apples, the price of apples go up. If there's fewer stocks in the market, the price goes up, which means that these executives are getting richer, right? And so that 1% surcharge tax that's in this on stock buybacks is a small price to pay, and it actually will help capitalism. This is the thing that a lot of us, I think, maybe some people on the left don't want to talk about this, but most business people are terrible capitalists. They just want to enrich themselves. And what they're doing is destroying a system that can expand prosperity for everybody. So I think it's really important that we break this idea that we can't afford this. We can completely afford it. And it's not fair that working class people are paying a certain fixed percentage of their income just in Medicare and Social Security taxes. That's higher than some of these corporate taxes or like the surcharge on the stock buyback. We tax labor more than wealth in the United States, and this bill is beginning to change that. Rant over. You're muted.
Coming from? Like, what's
Start
happening?
over. I had muted you.
Yeah, Jeff. So, I mean, Jordi, that's one part of it. That's just one piece of where the money's coming from. Jeff, do you have kind of a lay of the land of where the money's coming from for this?
Yeah, there's a couple other ways they're going to do this. One is going to be through increased enforcement of our tax collection laws to ensure that large corporations and the wealthy pay what they owe under existing tax laws, because they have so underfunded the IRS in recent years, frankly, for political purposes. It is very, very difficult for the IRS to really do significant investigations. And so, particularly the people who benefit from that lack of oversight are those who have the largest amounts of money. And, how much do they actually have? Well, we really are based on what they're telling us, what they report. And so there needs to be some ability to look beyond just self-reporting and see. Some of the estimates were that with aggressive enforcement and really following up on a lot of these very, very significant corporations and individuals and what they're reporting, you could raise up to $800 billion. $800 billion towards this.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, that's almost half the cost of this entire plan. Another way is that they're going to really help working people and put money back into people's hands is through an extension of the expanded earned income tax credit for around 17 million low-wage workers, so that low-wage workers without children are not taxed into poverty. Because guess what? that actually is it. It's the only group in this country that can actually go from being above the poverty line and then they're taxed and go below the poverty line. And that's adult low wage workers who don't have children living with them in the home. And so this is a really big way to give some money back to them. So we're really excited about some of the tax provisions here. But it's not just about taxing them. It's about actually coming together as a society, bringing our resources together based on what people are able to do, and pulling together for the collective good. And the collective good is making sure we have clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, that we have access and ability to get around without further destroying our environment. And we know that a lot of exciting things about clean energy and environmental cleanup in this plan.
Wow. Hilary, I know you've made a comment. You probably know, like right now, how much Elon Musk made yesterday. I mean, you always have those numbers in your head. Well, how much did he make yesterday, Hilary?
Well, we know that he's been making in the upwards of tens of billions of dollars a day, and that just 2% of his wealth could go to fixing worldwide hunger. So the wealth is there, the money is there. It's these ultra wealthy individuals who are whining that they won't be able to go to Mars while there are children starving next door. Okay. So it's about time that they pay their fair share. I pay my taxes. I've paid my taxes even when it put me under the poverty line. And here we have these ultra wealthy individuals who think that it just can't be done, and they're not willing. They don't like the sticker price that it takes for this investment, but this is what it's going to take to to build America back again.
Wow.
I really think this whole billionaires in space thing, it was sort of like a cry for help. It was really them saying to all of us, please, you need to tax us and make us pay our fair share. It's like, you send out like a flare as like a warning signal. That's what they were doing.
Not only that, and this is on brand for us as a podcast, I didn't see the Jeff Bezos rocket until like a week later. It really was a large penis. I'm sorry. So there was a cry for help at Minnie.
Oh my God. He went there. Well, with that kind of entrance, Jay, we haven't heard from you, and all I see is laughing right now. Like, I don't know. Yeah. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I totally agree with everybody. This is a fairness issue. You have these ultra uber rich people that don't bother paying taxes. They think they're exempt from it. And you have the rest of us who are paying our taxes. It gets automatically taken, unless you're an independent contractor, automatically comes out of our paycheck, every paycheck. And, it's like childcare costs, every 3 and 4 year old being able to automatically be guaranteed Head Start, that would be an amazing help for every parent. I remember when my daughter was born, back in 99 and 2000, my wife, we decided that we did simple math, right? We looked at my salary every month and her full-time wages. It would have cost her entire month of full-time wages plus a lot of my salary just to put her in childcare. It made more sense to keep her at home and try and struggle and survive on one income. This is all crazy. It's a fairness issue. You cannot expect families to get that little bit of breathing room, like President Biden said today during his announcement. If you have everybody living paycheck to paycheck, we're never going to get anywhere. It's going to harm the economy overall. And, I would like to go back and say thank you to all of the healthcare folks that are on this call today. I did end-of-life care for a number of people, to keep them in their homes, right? And I've done extensive volunteering in care facilities, and I've seen the struggles in these care facilities. Not only with the billing, the financial issue, where they're struggling to even make the bottom line break even, not even talking about getting into the black. Like, they're in the red or they're barely breaking even. They can't afford to pay their employees, a fair wage to keep them. And if you can't pay, like it's already been said, if you can't pay somebody at least as much as somebody at McDonald's or in retail is making, why should somebody put up with all of the extra hassles and stresses of a job like that. And to be able to, our population is aging. The boomer generation, there's no way, like our care facilities as they exist right now, we do not have enough beds in these facilities. So we need to be able to pay people to take care of, folks in their homes. And, that's going to help families too, because, and like has already been said, better outcomes. When you keep people, studies have proven, like if you can keep people in their home, in their community, where they have these community ties, instead of putting them in a facility where the extremely unfortunate reality is people get dumped in these facilities. And I've seen families never show up after the day they get dropped off. So it's better to keep them in where they, maintain community ties.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jay, and thanks for coming on. Hilary, do you want to talk a little bit about the Build Back Better and the Medicare piece?
Yeah, so just going off of what Jay was just talking about, this Build Back Better plan and the money that they are investing in home care and in community-based services is going to allow the individual states to increase the Medicaid wages that the rates, that they are providing to agencies or participant-directed home care workers, and even our nursing home workers, like Jay was talking about. And so that money is going to be going into, hopefully, those rates. And that way we can get more people working at the bedside. We can retain people at the bedside. And these rates have not been increased in over 10 years, probably about 15 years, since those rates have been increased for Medicaid. And the people that we are taking care of, it used to be a lot of elderly people had the ability to self-pay. They had, excuse me, they had a retirement plan, or they might have had savings, or they might have had the ability to do that. And unfortunately, what we're seeing now is people who are aging into facilities or into home care don't have that. So it is being paid via Medicaid and Medicare dollars. And so the states have been unable to raise that rate and fix their systems. So we really terribly need the investment through government in order to be able to do that in all of the states.
Thank you so much for saying that. I want to throw out kind of sort of move the angle a little bit wider. I find these numbers kind of hard to get my head around: 1.2 trillion, 1.7 trillion, 300 billion, that kind of thing. So I find it really useful to have like reference points. And also an important one is like, how much are we spending relative to the size of the economy? Like I threw out earlier that the total size of the U.S. economy is $21 trillion in 2020. So this the Build Back Better, I actually did this math wrong, but if you add together the infrastructure, the physical and the human infrastructure, it would be something like close to 3 trillion. But that's, somebody corrected me, that's over 10 years, right? That's over a lifetime of the bill. So this is not great math, but roughly that means that, let's see, I did the math here. This whole bill is only about 2% of our whole economy each year. That's very rough. I think that's about right, because I figured it over 1 year, 14%. So that's very small, right? It's not that much money to spend relative to the size of the whole economy. And get this, somebody, maybe you know, but how much in the middle of World War II, how much was the government spending compared to the size of the economy as a percentage? So right now I said this would be about 2% a year. Somebody know, how much were we spending in World War II? 40%. Almost half of the government was almost half the size of the whole economy. So, it seems to me with the pandemic, like we all understood this was a moment for all of us as Americans, as compassionate people, to come together as a great community and support each other. And there have been amazing examples of that all over the place. But then we haven't seen the kind of really muscular, robust response at the policy level. And that number really clarified it for me. The other one, and this honestly surprised me, maybe people know it, more people have died of COVID than died in World War II. right? So to me, those big numbers kind of help us to kind of get our arms around the scale of what we're talking about. That everything that we've talked about, which would be so valuable and do so much to rebalance the basic social contract and make this a fairer place for people to live and work and love. It's not that much. Like, this is completely within our reach. The only gap here is the political will. Now Jeff's going to correct me. I did my math wrong.
No. I'm gonna run with what you said, and because it's all about providing some context for this. We're talking about this is a huge investment. It's 1.75 trillion, maybe up to 1.9 trillion total cost of this. But let's keep this in perspective. And you mentioned the pandemic, and you mentioned the lives lost. We know what it's done to the economy. Some people, a very small number of people, did extremely well for themselves. And that group is America's billionaires. There are about 750 billionaire families in the United States. Since the start of the pandemic, over the course of 19, 20 months, those folks have seen their net wealth increase on average 70%. 70% increase. And what does that mean in actual dollars? The wealthiest Americans, the billionaires, have seen their wealth increase by $2.1 trillion since the start of the pandemic. If we just said to them, give us the increase in wealth during this time when many other people made sacrifices, just give us the increase in your wealth, that would more than pay for all of these investments. And we could make even more important investments that we weren't able to make here at this point in time. Pennsylvania actually is home now to 17 of those billionaires. We've added several billionaires since the start of the pandemic.
It's even gone up. The last time I heard it, it's gone up. I feel like the last time I heard this, it was 12 or 13.
Yeah, no, it's gone up. It's gone up. And in fact, these 17
Does an
billionaires
angel lose their wings when we get a new trillionaire or billionaire in Pennsylvania?
Well, what it means is that probably another kid has missed out on an opportunity to get an early education. That means that another senior has had to go without home care.
I was thinking another Republican judicial candidate got another $100 million.
Well,
anyway, sorry, Jeff.
I was just going to say one last thing on Pennsylvania's billionaires. I said nationally billionaires saw their wealth increase by an average of 70%. Pennsylvania, those 17 billionaires' wealth more than doubled. It was actually about 103% increase for them. So in the context of these numbers, the increase in wealth of billionaires since the start of the pandemic, 2.1 trillion. This investment package, which is historic and huge, 1.7, 1.9 trillion. We have the resources. We have the money. We know where it is. We know who has it. And you know what? We outnumber them by a lot. So
definitely.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, I love it. So to close out, here's something that came to me. I hope this works. This bill has got a lot of really great things in it. I know that we could talk about the political situation. I've been through my own 7 or 8 stages of grief about Manchin and Sinema in the U.S. Senate. This is not the time for that, because there are so many good things here that will, regardless of like the political ramifications, they just help people. And I don't care how those people vote. This is what we need to do. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of paint a picture of like what a lot of typical households and families are dealing with. And then given that all of us have read the summary, we're just going to kind of go around whatever comes to mind. I want you to then take that picture and sort of change one part of it, right? Like, because this bill will pass, this part of the picture will be different, right? So does that make sense? It's like kind of a collective activity. And we'll do this for a little while, and you can throw something out, and it's not like we're going to go around and everybody has to have something. Okay, so picture a single mother with like 2 children. Let's say she lives in a medium-sized city of like 100,000 people in Pennsylvania.
I think Jordi froze.
Yeah, I think. Hey, Jordi, you froze a little bit.
You really got overwhelmed there.
What Jordi was doing, yeah, it's a great pose. He's like raising his hand. He's taking an oath right now. Hi, Jordi. Yeah, let's all hold up our hands. We can all like take the oath with him. Let's go with what he was saying. So,
transit system to get her kid in the morning to preschool and then get to work, and her dad has been dealing with an opioid addiction from having got an injury at a construction site where he worked, and so he had back pain and was taking prescription pills. Is right? Does everybody kind of picture that we'll call her Maria, right? That single mom. So what's one thing about her life that would change when this bill passes?
I'll jump.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Will have like clean air and good water to drink, like that might help a little bit. So many of our resources are just polluted and we haven't been putting the money aside to take care of that. Maybe get rid of some of those lead pipes, right? Maybe that will help.
I'm thinking along the lines of the ability to choose time at work versus time taking care of her family members. She'll actually have a choice now, if even just to go part-time at her job in order to take care of her family and still be secure.
Awesome. I was thinking about how, like, with some of the investments in alternative transit, there would be an actual functioning, like, bus or a light rail or another kind of system, so that the hour and a quarter, like often in smaller cities, you wait a lot longer to catch a bus than you do in bigger cities because not enough is invested in it. I know where I live in Lewisburg, we have a bus that goes around that is for people who meet a certain income threshold. But if you don't, it's like really expensive, and it's kind of crazy because like the bus is there. Why wouldn't you let people pay like a subsidized rate to get on it? Like it doesn't make any sense.
This package will allow Maria's kids to go to a school that is free of asbestos and lead, which is a huge problem in Pennsylvania and in the city where I live, from Philadelphia. My daughter's school has problems with asbestos there, and there's money in this Build Back Better plan to clean out and to clean up these environmental hazards that risk not only our children's lives, but the lives of the people who are there to educate them. So
couldn't that school also have solar panels installed on the roof, maybe?
There's a lot of money in there for solar incentives, so I would say that's probably a big yes.
I mean, this is like, I'm getting excited. Like, this is starting to become a really like amazing picture. Anybody got other? How would the child tax credit work? So she would have, when she files her taxes, she would be getting both the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. Is that right, Jay? Jeff, I mean.
We'd be talking about the child tax credit here on this one.
Right.
And in fact, the payments for the next year will still be done on the monthly schedule at the rate that's there. Now that, is only in effect for the next year, but, our expectation is that this will be something that gets continued long-term because people will see the benefits that it has. And I would suggest that, after we have election day next week, you're going to suddenly hear about a lot of people who are running for office for the 2022 elections, particularly folks who are running for Congress or running for the U.S. Senate. Might be worth asking them, would you support continuing and making permanent this expanded child tax credit? Because we've seen it cutting child poverty significantly. And in fact, that's great for the kids and their families, but it's great for all of us because the cost to all of us of the kind of problems that people are going to face growing up in poverty are significantly more expensive. So these are investments that have immediate as well as long-term dividends for all of us.
That's great. Anybody else want to fill in any little? I feel like the Bob Ross guy, like Pretty Little Cloud. This child care center with Maria with her 3-year-old, and the other one, I guess, is I was thinking about her father too, and so many people face this double crunch, right, of caring for a young child and caring an elderly person. I know that the overdose deaths in Pennsylvania went up during the pandemic, and that's something that I don't think got enough attention. Yeah, Julie.
Hey, I'll say something because I could actually touch on all those. When I started caregiving, I was 15 years old. I had my first baby at 16 years old. What this would have done for me would have been immense. It would have been able to put clothes on my child's back, be able to afford health care with somebody who my daughter could or not health care, child care with somebody my daughter could understand if she was asking, are you hungry? when my daughter was scared when we moved to a new area because it was more efficient at that point to be able to move someplace else to be a healthcare worker than stay here. The wage was more. It would have given me more time with my child because I wouldn't have had to have worked as many hours. And instead of living in a low-income home where there was lead-based paint, as my baby's saying, this tastes good, and I'm saying, I wish I could just find a better job that was paying me more. This would give the mental health back to us as people. It would lower the suicide rate. It would decrease the urgency to want to be an addict or come home and get drunk at night because you're not working as hard. You're still working the same, but you're at least having the people that matter the most say, hey, I feel you, I understand, and I can't do a whole lot, but let us do this and give you this child tax credit, or let us give you training to be able to generate that child tax credit over and over and over again.
Well, that's a good place to end. Thank you, Julie. I'm going to go ahead and hit end on